I carried a secret so dark it felt like a shadow clinging to my soul. My name is Jenna, a 32-year-old graphic designer in a quiet Seattle neighborhood. To the world, I was a bubbly spirit, a friend who listened. But beneath that facade lay a shameful truth that clawed at my insides. It began with a simple obsession, spiraling into something grotesque and twisted, something I couldn't escape. One rainy afternoon, I found myself browsing an online forum, lost in the stories of others sharing their darkest secrets. The smell of damp earth wafted through my slightly open window, mingling with the stale scent of my cluttered apartment. I stumbled upon a thread about a peculiar subculture, people who reveled in collecting objects left behind by others. While most were harmless trinkets, some delved into the disturbing. Discarded clothing, half-eaten food, personal items. I felt an unsettling pull, a mix of curiosity and thrill. That evening, I went on my first expedition, driven by an unquenchable urge to find something left behind. I roamed the rain-soaked streets, feeling the slick pavement beneath my sneakers, the cold air biting at my skin. My heart raced as I approached a trash bin behind a local diner, the pungent odor of spoiled food hitting me like a wall. Inside, I found a half-eaten burger, its bread soggy, the meat oozing grease. A wave of nausea washed over me, yet an inexplicable excitement surged through my veins. I couldn't resist. I snatched it up, wrapping it in a crumpled napkin, my hands trembling with a mix of revulsion and exhilaration. Back home, the dim light of my living room flickered as I held the burger. The remnants of mustard dripped down my fingers, the smell overwhelming. I felt a strange sense of power and degradation all at once. Without thinking, I took a bite. The flavors were rancid, but I chewed slowly, savoring the grotesque experience. Each morsel was a slap in the face of my own sanity. I felt the greasy texture slide down my throat, fighting the urge to gag. I was in too deep, and it was exhilarating. Days turned into weeks, and my obsession grew. I became bolder, raiding dumpsters, scavenging alleys. I found more than just food, items that connected me to strangers. A worn-out shoe, a child's crayon drawing, a frayed scarf. Each object whispered stories of lives I would never know. I created a shrine in my apartment, each piece a testament to my bizarre collection. The smell of decay mingled with the air, a constant reminder of my descent into madness. My friends began to notice my erratic behavior. I'd cancel plans, my apartment becoming a fortress of shame. When they visited, I'd hide my treasures, hoping they wouldn't catch a whiff of the putridness. One day, a close friend invited herself over unexpectedly. My heart raced as I scrambled to stash everything away. The muffled sounds of her laughter echoed in the hallway, and I panicked. When she knocked on my door, I felt the walls closing in, a suffocating dread filling me. I opened the door, plastering on a smile, but she spotted a bag peeking out from under my couch. Her brows furrowed in confusion as she tugged it free, the stench hitting her like a freight train. I froze, the world around me blurring. "What is this, Jenna?" she asked, horror etched on her face. I felt exposed, every secret laid bare. As I stumbled to explain, words failed me. I could only watch as her expression morphed from shock to disgust, then pity. In that moment, something shattered inside me. I'd crossed the line, and the realization washed over me like a cold wave. My heart raced, not from the thrill of the hunt, but from the absolute dread of losing the last connection I had to reality. She backed away slowly, shaking her head, unable to comprehend the depths of my depravity. I felt hollow, the weight of my actions pressing down on me like a crushing fog. As my door closed behind her, the silence echoed, and with it came the realization that I was utterly, irrevocably alone. No moral lesson, no redemption, just the remnants of a life consumed by a dark obsession, leaving me with nothing but the stench of my own shame. I never thought I would find myself wading through regret, but here I am, knee-deep in the muck of my choices. My name is Sam, a regular guy from a suburban Midwest town where life revolved around routine, work, home, and an endless cycle of blandness. Yet beneath my mundane existence lay a secret that would unravel my reality. It all began with a conversation with a coworker, Jenna. She exuded a magnetic energy that brightened my dull days. One lunch, she leaned in, her breath carrying the scent of sweet coffee and something deeper. "You should try something different," she said, her eyes glinting with mischief. Before long, we were charting a course into the unknown, a thrill akin to jumping off a cliff into darkness. What followed were reckless decisions spiraling out of control. We started with late-night rendezvous, the air thick with cheap beer and fried food. Each encounter was electric, yet suffocating, filled with whispered secrets and fantasies that felt liberating yet imprisoning. The thrill masked the horror of my actions. I was married, and Jenna, a mere distraction, was blurring the lines of my sanity. One rainy evening, I found myself in a dingy motel, the walls peeling and stained. Jenna arrived, her hair damp and wild, and for a moment, danger and delight charged the air. The scent of mildew mingled with her floral perfume, creating an oddly intoxicating atmosphere. We both knew it was wrong, yet morality felt distant. As we crossed that line, I was overwhelmed by a freedom I hadn't known I was missing. But with every encounter, the weight of my betrayal grew heavier. I craved the thrill, the adrenaline rush of deception. Soon it became a sick game that left me feeling empty, yet exhilarated. Each time I returned home, the fresh laundry scent and my wife's favorite fabric softener gnawed at me, festering in my gut. Then it happened. One night I pushed too far. Jenna suggested something darker, and despite my hesitation, curiosity won. We ended up in a deserted alley, the air thick with the stench of trash. The adrenaline surged, and in a moment of madness, we broke boundaries that shouldn't have been crossed. The darkness wrapped around us like a shroud, and I felt the weight of my choices pressing down. The next morning, my phone buzzed incessantly. It was Jenna, but this time her message was frantic. My heart raced as I read, "We need to talk." Dread settled in my stomach. I met her in a park, the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves heavy in the air. She looked disheveled, her eyes wide with fear. "I can't keep doing this. Someone saw us," she said, her voice shaky. Panic surged through me. The consequences of our actions were crashing down, terrifying and real. I could almost taste the bile rising as I imagined the fallout. The shame was overwhelming, and I realized the thrill had morphed into a nightmare. I hadn't just betrayed my marriage, I had jeopardized my entire life. The weight of the secret was too heavy to bear, and as I walked home, the familiar smells of my neighborhood began to suffocate me. Each step felt heavier, like crawling through thick mud. I was trapped in a reality of my own making, a prison of guilt and shame. As I closed the door behind me that evening, I knew I had crossed a line from which there was no return. In a world built on trust, I had shattered everything, and the pieces lay scattered, sharp and dangerous, ready to cut me deeper with every breath I took.
I never imagined I'd find myself standing in front of a bathroom mirror, staring at my reflection, burdened by a secret that could crush me. My name is Claire, a 29-year-old marketing executive in a bustling city where ambition often overshadows morality. By day, I crafted the perfect image, but it was the night that unraveled me. It began innocently enough. At a coworker's party, the air thick with cheap cologne and stale beer, I felt oddly isolated, as if watching a movie where everyone else had a role. That's when I noticed him, Jake, a charming intern with a boyish grin that concealed an unsettling intensity. I was drawn to him, perhaps by the thrill of doing something reckless that could shatter my carefully constructed facade. The night spiraled quickly. After a few too many drinks, I found myself locked in a quiet room with Jake. Dim light casting shadows on our faces. The smell of sweat mingled with the remnants of our drinks, and the heat between us was palpable. I didn't know how it happened, but soon we were tangled in a mess of limbs, breaths heavy with the weight of our decisions. It felt alive, exhilarating, yet a dark corner of my mind screamed that this was wrong. In a moment of pure impulse, I suggested we take it further. I don't know what possessed me. Perhaps it was the thrill of being caught or a need to escape my monotonous life. We stumbled into the bathroom, fluorescent lights buzzing above us like angry wasps. The grimy walls and sticky floor heightened my desperation. I leaned against the sink, surrendering to the chaos. But chaos morphs into something darker. As we lost ourselves in each other, the world faded away until all I could hear was the pounding of my heart and muffled voices outside the door. I felt invigorated, yet disgusted, as if betraying something deeper within myself. The bathroom reeked of bleach and something more sinister, a reminder of the danger lurking behind closed doors. In that moment, I felt invincible, but the thrill turned sour when the door swung open. My boss, the person who had championed my career, walked in. Confusion and horror crossed his face as he glimpsed the chaos. I froze, the walls closing in. This was more than a fleeting mistake. This was a career-ending blunder. The air thickened with humiliation, suffocating me. Jake Bolton, leaving me exposed. Shame washed over me like a wave. My boss turned and retreated into the night, leaving me alone with the stench of my failure. I could almost hear the echo of my life slipping through my fingers, fractured and irretrievable. Outside, the world continued spinning, oblivious to the storm within me. Days turned into weeks. The weight of my cowardice pressed down on my chest, suffocating me. I tried to act normal, laughing with coworkers, but the tension was palpable. Gossip spread like wildfire. Whispers and speculative glances haunted me. I became a ghost in my own life, haunted by my boss's disappointment. I still see Jake occasionally. His smile now feels like a taunt, a reminder of the recklessness that led me to this desolation. I wonder if he feels the weight of that night too, or if he's moved on, unburdened. The bathroom lingers in my mind, a haunted space filled with echoes of my choices. I never returned to that party scene. The laughter that once felt inviting now seems like a distant echo. Every time I look in the mirror, I see remnants of that night. My reflection twisted by shame, marked by a moment of weakness. There's no moral to this story, no redemption waiting at the end, just the heavy reality of a secret festering in the shadows, unspoken and raw. I buried a secret under the floorboards, and it still whispers to me at night. My name is Ethan, and I was always the quiet kid at school, the one who blended into the background, hiding behind books and small talk. I never sought attention, but in a desperate bid to belong, I made a choice that haunts me still. It started on a rainy Friday, the air thick with the smell of wet earth. I was invited to a party at Jake's, the popular guy known for his wild gatherings. I hoped, maybe, this time, I'd feel part of something. The room was dimly lit, bodies swaying to music that pulsed like a heartbeat. I stood in a corner with a drink in my hand, feeling invisible, until I saw her, Sarah. Her smile lit up the room, and for a moment it felt like I was the only one in her orbit. As the night went on, the atmosphere got more chaotic. I watched people dance, the floor sticky under my sneakers from spilled drinks and sweat. I felt pressure to fit in, to prove I was more than the boy nobody noticed. In a moment of false courage, I joined a group playing Truth or Dare.
When my turn came, the dares grew more ridiculous and reckless. I was a puppet pulled by invisible strings, desperate to impress. Then it happened. Jake dared me to take Sarah outside, into the darkness of the backyard. The cold air hit me, mixed with the faint scent of grass and something bitter, maybe rotting leaves. Out of sight of prying eyes, I was supposed to kiss her. It felt unreal. My heart hammered as I leaned in, the minty taste of her breath mingling with the metallic tang of my nerves. But when I pulled back, I saw something in her eyes. A flicker of fear. I realized Jake and his friends were watching from the window, laughing and filming. A wave of humiliation washed over me. My face burned. In that moment, I panicked. Instead of stepping back, I shoved Sarah, my hands pushed harder than I meant to. She stumbled, her back hitting the wooden fence with a sickening thud. The laughter in the house cut off, leaving an awkward, stunned silence. Her expression changed from surprise to confusion, then to something darker. I tried to apologize, but the words got stuck in my throat like a heavy stone. The laughter started again, but it sounded distant, muffled. The smell of smoke mixed with the cold night air made my stomach churn. I turned away, unable to face what I'd done, and walked off. Every step felt like a betrayal of my conscience. The next day, the whispers started. Sarah didn't show up at school, and rumors spread like wildfire. I watched as she became the target of mockery, and I, sitting silent, was a quiet accomplice. My guilt festered, refusing to heal. I buried it deep, pretending she didn't exist. Every laugh in the hallway felt like a knife, cutting deeper. Months later, I met Jake for coffee, and he laughed about that night. He said, "You should have seen her face." He slapped the table while I forced a smile. Inside, I was screaming. I wanted to tell him the truth, that I had shoved her not out of malice, but out of weakness, out of fear of becoming a laughingstock. But the words dissolved before they could leave my mouth. Now, years on, I can't rid myself of the smell of rotting leaves in my memory. The image of Sarah's startled eyes haunts me, turning my dreams into warped nightmares. Sometimes I stand at the edge of that backyard, the echoes of laughter drowning any hope of redemption. I never found a way to apologize. I never reached out to tell her I was sorry. I just buried it, thinking I could remain in the shadows, but it never left. It keeps coming back, reminding me every day that sometimes silence speaks louder than words.
I once buried a secret so deep that it clawed at me from within, begging to be released. My name is Charlie, a 30-something barista in a small town where the smell of burnt coffee mingles with stale donuts, creating a nauseating perfume of mediocrity. I was the friendly face behind the counter, serving caffeine fixes with a smile, but nobody knew the darkness swirling inside me, like a storm ready to break. One chilly October evening, the incident occurred. The air was crisp, holding the scent of fallen leaves and something putrid. After finishing my shift, I felt the urge to wander. I found myself walking down a dimly lit alley, the flickering streetlight casting eerie shadows against graffiti-stained walls. That's when I heard it, a muffled cry from a dumpster. Curiosity curled in my gut, blending with an unsettling thrill. Approaching, my heart pounded like a drum. Peering into the dumpster, I saw a small, scruffy dog, its fur matted and stained. Its wide, fearful eyes met mine, and a rancid stench wafted up, a mix of decay and desperation. For a moment, I thought of rescuing it, imagining myself as a hero, the Good Samaritan saving this pitiful creature. But then something darker stirred within me. Instead of helping, I stepped back, feeling the cold metal of the dumpster against my palm. I realized I had been grappling with my own emptiness, and the thought of saving this dog made me nauseous. What if I didn't save it? A thrill coursed through me, igniting a bizarre mixture of pleasure and guilt. I turned and walked away. As I left, the dog's cries echoed behind me, haunting and relentless. I could still hear it hours later, creeping into my dreams, gnawing at my sanity. I felt like a monster, yet the shame was oddly exhilarating.
I returned to the coffee shop the next day, wearing my barista mask, serving customers with a smile, yet feeling like an imposter in my own skin. The weight of my decision twisted inside me, but the act of turning away felt intoxicatingly powerful. Days turned into weeks. The cries faded, but the guilt morphed into an obsession. I couldn't shake the image of that dog, its pleading eyes, the way it squirmed in despair. I began visiting that alley more frequently, hoping to catch a glimpse of it, wanting to feel that rush again. Each time I approached the dumpster, I wrestled with my conscience, but I never opened it. The thought of saving it scared me. What if I was incapable of love, incapable of caring? Then one evening, I finally mustered the courage to lift the lid. The stench hit me like a punch in the gut, and I recoiled, but my morbid curiosity won. Peering inside, I saw the dog, emaciated, trembling, eyes glazed with fear. At that moment, something primal ignited within me. I felt a surge of power, a wave of visceral satisfaction. I could choose what to do. I could be a savior or the executioner. But before I could decide, a group of teenagers appeared, laughing and throwing trash into the dumpster. They noticed me and began to taunt. "What's wrong, Charlie? You scared of a little dog?" My heart raced, not just from their mockery, but from the fear of being discovered. I felt exposed like an open wound, and in a fit of rage, I yelled back, "Leave it alone! You don't know what it's been through!" They laughed harder, and in that moment, I was reduced to nothing, an empty shell before them, a coward hiding behind bravado. I ran, my legs carrying me far from that alley, from that shameful act. But the truth is, I never stopped thinking about that dog. I never stopped feeling the weight of my choice. I reinvented myself into a better version after that day, but deep down, I knew the darkness still lingered, coiling tightly around my conscience. The secret remained buried, festering, and as much as I tried to cleanse my soul, it was there, nestled in the depths of my being, a reminder of the monster I could be.